From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Buenos días. Buenos días. Boy, it's really raining. Did you notice? And you notice that I'm ready for the rain? Yeah. And I got very turned around in Washington, D.C. If you guys know how to walk around this place, you must be very smart cookies, because I went around and around and around. I was going, maybe I should go that way. Maybe I should go this way. So I'm very glad to be here, because today is really, you're right, a very special day. It's called El Día. That's sort of obvious and anticlimactic, isn't it? Does anyone know what the word día means in Espanol? What does it mean? It means day. So it's kind of strange to say, oh, let's have a party, it's day. Okay. What does that mean? But it means something else. It used to be called El Día de los Niños. Now we call it Diversity in Action. And that means, that's a celebration that the American Library Association has. And it reminds us that the books that we read, the books that are on the shelf in this library, in your neighborhood library, and at your school, should have inside of them all kinds of kids. Kids who speak Chinese at home, kids who speak English at home, kids who speak Espanol at home, kids who live in this country, kids who live in Latin America, kids who live in Antarctica, kids who are Native American, all kinds of people. So I love that. I really, really love that day, because it just so happens that the people in my books speak English and also Espanol. Does anybody here speak more than one language? Oh, fabulous. So you know. Thank you. And how many people here are practicing their English to get better at their English? Muy bien, excelente, excellent, wonderful. I was just like you. I speak English pretty well now, right? That fast and everything. But when I was 5, I started kindergarten, like most people, started 5 or 6 in kindergarten, and I did not speak English. I spoke Spanish because my mother was from Cuba, and she had just come from Cuba. And so my abuela, which means grandmother, spoke Spanish. My abuelo, which means spoke Spanish. My tías, which means spoke Spanish. My tío spoke? I tricked you. My uncle spoke Spanish, that's right. So everybody spoke Spanish. And I was the first one in my family to be born here. Everybody else was born in Cuba, and I was born here. So my family called me La Americanita, the little American. Does anybody have that? Is anybody born here and their family was born somewhere else? Raise your hand if you were born here. Oh, so you know. We have a lot in common. Okay, put your hands down. Here was the crazy thing about that. Sometimes I had to translate a lot of things. Papers that came home from school and things like that. Sometimes when the super came knocking at the door with a message about hot water, or there was going to be a repair or something like that, my mother couldn't understand, so I had to translate. And then I had to translate funny things also, like, what's Girl Scouts, right? I said to my mother one day, I want to be a Girl Scout. And she says, ¿Qué es un Girl Scout? And I said, Girl Scout? We put on uniforms, we sell cookies, we roast marshmallows in fire, we go to the woods and sleep there. And my mother looked at me and she goes, what kind of crazy people take a bunch of girls into the woods? And I said, no, it's a Girl Scout. And so I had to explain some things that we do in the United States that my mother wasn't used to doing in her country. There were differences. And so as I grew up, I realized that I had one foot in the United States, la Americanita, and I had this foot in where my mother was from, which was Cuba. And these 2 feet had to figure out how to dance. A good merengue or salsa or something, right? They had to work together to dance. And sometimes that was easy, and sometimes that was hard. Sometimes I wished my mother could speak English well and knew what was going on, and I didn't have to explain simple things. And sometimes I thought it was very cool to know a bunch of words in Spanish, and some of my friends only spoke English. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I was thinking about all those things when I sat down one day to write my book called Tía Isa Wants a Car. So I already heard that you know what Tía Isa means, Aunt Isa, right? So I had a real Aunt Isa. She's still living. She lives with me in Virginia. She's very old now. She's 80. She's in a wheelchair. She's little. She's shrinking. So she's a little white-haired lady. But when I met her, I was 5 or 6 years old. And she came from Cuba. And that was really strange because most of the time when a baby is born, right? The family's waiting at home and the baby comes home and everybody goes, oh, how cute. They give them rattles, they bring them presents, it's a big deal. But it was different because my family was coming from another country to meet me. I had a whole bunch of family that lived in another country. They didn't live with me. So I met Isa for the first time. Here's what you need to know about Isa. A very nervous lady. Oh boy. There had been trouble in Cuba. They were in sort of a war. It was like a political problem. So there was shooting on the streets. There was violence on the streets. So when she left Cuba, she was scared. So she came here, and she was still scared. So if the phone rang, she'd go, who can it be? And I'd say, we have to answer it. That's how we find out. If the ambulance went by, woo, 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 she'd go, who's dead? And I'd say, I don't know, I hope nobody. I don't know. And sometimes, because I was a little tricky, my sister and I used to like to slam the door really hard just so that we could hear her go, "Ay!" up into the, we love that, okay? She had some good qualities though. I remember thinking, this one is a little weird. But her lip used to jump, she used to blink a lot. But she was also fun. You know those adults that still play? They're the best. So, you know, most adults, they play with you for 2 minutes, right? And then they go, oh yeah, fine, I'm busy, I gotta go on the phone, I gotta check my mail, I gotta do something else. But not Isa. If I wanted to jump rope, pollito, pollito, you know, she would be there for hours turning my rope. If I wanted to play jacks, that little game with that you throw those things and you throw the ball up, because she was so nervous, she could go and pick them all up in one single bounce. She was fantastic. She used to curl my hair and paint my toenails and let me curl her hair and paint her toenails. And you can imagine what that looked like when I got through with her. She was like the bride of Frankenstein. But she didn't care because she knew how to play. So one day, I was sitting in my kitchen with Abuela, who was making a pot of beans. stirring the beans. Do any of you like rice and beans? Because I love it. Okay, just checking. So there she was, making the beans. And Isa, Tía Isa, comes home from work, and she says, I've made a decision. We said, what? She said, voy a comprar un carro. I'm going to buy a car. And I'm going to get driving lessons. Voy a aprender a manejar. And my grandmother stopped stirring. And she looked at her and she said, Tú estás loca. No. Yo no me meto en el carro contigo. Nos vas a matar. Are you crazy? I'm not getting in a car with you. You're too nervous. You'll kill us all. And she started to pray. So Isa said what Isa always said. Okay? When somebody made her mad, she always said this. Take it easy. She didn't speak English at all except for that. And I'll tell you, it's very handy. I still use it when my husband and I are having an argument, or my kids and I are getting angry at each other. One of us will always go, take it easy. And we start to laugh. So I want you to remember that when you're in the playground and you're fighting with somebody or arguing with somebody or your brother or something, you have to say, take it easy. Let's practice. You have to use your hands too. Okay? We're going to go this way with the hands. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Take it easy. Exactly. It's magic. It works. Try it. So anyway, she said, take it easy. She didn't say one more thing about it. In secret, she went to a driving school that was bilingual. Does anybody know what it is to be bilingual? What does it mean? Exactly. And the driving instructor spoke Español y Inglés, Spanish and English. And he must have been the most patient driver in the world, driving teacher, because here's the secret that nobody knows. Are you ready? Tía Isa was a terrible driver. Abuela was right. She was terrible. One day, I'm in the kitchen again with Abuela. What's Abuela doing? Stirring the beans. And here she comes. I hear outside the window. Brum, 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 brum. Brum, 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 meh. So I go to the window and I look outside my apartment, and there is Isa in a gigantic Buick Wildcat, bright blue, like that eyeshadow that girls used to wear in the early 70s. And there she is behind the wheel. And I went, Isa! And she said, I did it. And she got us a car. And Isa drove us everywhere in that car. Badly. She went over the sidewalk. She bumped into garbage cans. Forget it. If she had to park between two cars, those poor cars. She called it kissing them. She'd go, until she got in. All right? Bad. But I didn't care. You know why not? Because before Isa bought the car, we had to walk everywhere, even in weather like today. If I needed groceries, it was me, the umbrella, the raincoat, and the cart with Mommy to go get them. If I had to go to the doctor, I had to take a bunch of buses and figure out how to get there in time for the appointment. If I had to go to the beach, oh my goodness, that was a problem. That took several buses, go to Jamaica, transfer to this one, to that line, to that. It was crazy. But with the car, Isa could take us anywhere. And the first place she took us was the beach. She took us to the beach. And Cuba, the country that she's from, is an island. And it was surrounded by water. That's what an isla is, an island, Cuba. And it had beautiful beaches. Now, New York City does not have beautiful beaches. It does not have beautiful beaches. But I grew up in Queens, and it was hot in Queens in the summer, and there was a lot of cement in Queens in the summer. And she loaded us all into that big car, and she took us to the beach. I think because she wanted me to know what it felt like to be there in the sand, to be picking shells. And of course, she was still nervous. She wouldn't even let me get in deeper than this much in the water because she said a shark might take me or a wave might swallow me, or you know, Isa. But still, it was fun. So here's the funny thing about that. I had forgotten all about Isa and the car. All I had of that was a picture que está aquí in the back of the book. This was the Buick Wildcat, and that is Tía Isa, and very little in the background, that's Abuela looking like this. And I'm behind the wheel. And I like this picture, and I like the idea of being behind the wheel. Like you could be behind the wheel, really, of a car steering. But if you think about it, strong kids and strong people get behind the wheel and steer themselves in life. If they want something, they decide, I want that, I'm going to go get that. And they drive themselves toward that idea. So anyway, I forgot all about Tía Isa until one day I was working on another book. And it was giving me trouble. How many of you ever have trouble when you're writing? Yeah, I know, a veces es difícil. It's hard sometimes. You sit down and you can't think of how to write it, the word, or how to make it sound good. Okay, hands down. So that was what's happening. And I'm sitting there trying to think of what to write, and suddenly I said to myself, I'm going to try to write a picture book because I like picture books. And I sat down and I closed my eyes, and this is the sentence that came to my mind. Tía Isa wants a car. And I said to myself, Oye, Tía Isa, take it easy. I'm busy here. Go away. I'm writing. So I closed my eyes again. And again, the voice inside my head said, Tía Isa wants a car. And I said, really? And the voice said, sí, really, to take us to the beach. So I sat down and I said, I'm going to tell this story of Tía Isa, except not the part about her being a lousy driver because it would hurt her feelings, right? And I did what a lot of writers do. I took a piece of things that was true. There's a Tía Isa, there was a car, I lived in Queens. And then I added some make-believe people in, and I added some new things, and I made a new book. Because I wanted the book to be about a girl and her aunt getting the first family car. I wanted the book to be about how hard it is sometimes when we miss our families and they live somewhere else. I wanted to write a book about a strong, funny girl who doesn't take no for an answer. I see a bunch of them sitting here. So I wrote the book. Would you like to hear the story?
Yes.
Great. I have time as it happens. But you have to help me tell it, okay? So you hear the phrase, Tía Isa wants a car all the time. So when you hear it, when I go like this, when I go like this, that's your cue to say, Tía Isa wants a car. Okay? You want to practice?
Yes.
Ready? When I go like this.
Tía Isa wants a car.
Beautiful. And at the end, you're going to hear, I want you to be listening for it. It's at the end. When you hear me say, then Tía Isa leans into the hula hoop wheel and off we go. When you hear me say, off we go, I want you to grab your steering wheel and we're going to go on a drive together, okay? But don't grab your steering wheel until you hear me say, off we go, okay? Okay. Bueno, a empezar. Y también, I should tell you, you see it over there? It says, Tía Isa quiere un carro. It's available in español too. So if you wanted to read.
¿No lo puede leer en español?
Lo puedo leer en español.
Aquí todos hablan español.
Better than English? Should I read it in Spanish? Okay, so I leave it to you. Do you prefer me to read it in Spanish? I could also read it in English and read a page or two in Spanish, or the other way around.
It's up to you. I was under the impression that it was going to be in Spanish.
Okay, well, it can be.
You know, we had a teacher from Cuba here.
No me digas.
¿Sí?
Aquí estoy, en La Habana.
¡Oh, qué bueno! Mi familia es de Santa Clara.
¿Sabe que conoce el Teatro de la Caridad? ¿Lo conoció?
No.
¿Santa Clara?
Seguro que mi mamá...
Teatro muy bonito. Yo participé en la restauración de ese teatro.
Ok. Nosotros tenemos que hablar después. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read the first page in English, and then I'll read it in Spanish. A mí me da igual, lo puedo leer en español también. Okay, so a page in English, a page in Spanish, or a page in English and then we read the rest of the story in Spanish?
Yeah, the rest of the story in Spanish.
Okay, this is what it sounds like in English. Tía Isa wants a car. Let's try it again. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Tía Isa wants a car.
She tells me after work, when she still smells of lemon pies from the bakery, she's turning the jump rope that's tied to the fence, and I'm already up to 20. Un bicicorre, she says, to take us to the beach. Really? The beach? I can't catch my breath. No one goes far from my block in the summer, but a beach has foamy water that reaches all the places I cannot go. See, really, let's save. That's what it sounds like in English. Ahora, vamos a decirlo en español, así que Tía Isa quiere un carro. O mejor, ready? 1, 2, 3. Tía Isa quiere un carro. Bien. Okay, your Spanish is probably better than mine, so let's see. Nacida aquí, what can I say? Tía Isa quiere un carro. Ella me dice al salir del trabajo, aún perfumada con el aroma de las tartas de limón de la pastelería. Tía Isa hace girar la cuerda de saltar que está atada a la cerca. Llego a 20 saltos y entonces ella dice, un bicicorre para que nos lleve a la playa. ¿En verdad? ¿A la playa? Nadie se aleja demasiado de mi vecindario durante el verano, pero en la playa hay agua espumosa que alcanza todos los lugares que yo no puedo visitar. ¿Sí? En verdad. Comencemos a ahorrar. Tía Isa quiere un carro. ¿De qué color? Pregunto mientras subimos las escaleras hasta nuestro apartamento. En el camino pasamos frente a las puertas de los apartamentos vecinos. El ruido de los cubiertos y olor de las salchichas se escapa por debajo de las grietas. Del mismo color verde brillante del océano que se arremolinaba bajo la ventana de mi cuarto, me responde. Cuando tía era una niña, el aire en la isla donde vivía olía a hojas de palma y palmas húmedas y lodo. Ok, voy a pasar por esta. Tía Isa quiere un carro, pero al oír el plan de su hermana, el tío Andrés se estalla en risas. ¡Pero qué ridículo! él exclama, no tienes tanto dinero como una reina. Aquí caminamos para obtener lo que necesitamos, Isa. Ahora, ¿qué hay de comer? La tía Isa solo silba y tropieza con las botas de trabajo del tío Andrés, que parecen las de ogro y están cubiertas de lodo. Luego, ella revuelve la sopa de frijoles negros. Más tarde, esa misma noche, la tía Isa busca el sobre grueso con dinero que guarda en el cajón de su cuarto. Hay 2 pilas, me cuenta. ¿Ves estas 2 pilas? Voy a formar una pila alta y erguida. Esa será nuestro dinero de ayuda. Lo enviaremos a casa junto con cartas y fotografías para que mami pueda ver cuánto yo he crecido. Lo que queda es para el carro de tía Isa. Es muy poquito, pienso, apenas un pellizco. Pero tía Isa solo cruza los brazos. ¿Qué dijo ese hermano mío tan mandón? Pregunta. Dijo, ¡ridículo! Repito, con la R tan marcada como tío Andrés. Se parece al ronroneo de un gato. Ya veremos, concluye tía Isa. Tía Isa quiere un carro. Nos estará esperando en esta venta de carros que huele de alquitrán. Seguimos caminando mientras comemos las paletas rojas y observamos nubes que se reflejan sobre el capo brillante de los carros. ¿Cuánto sale, señor? ¿Cuánto? Repite tía Isa en el poco inglés que domina. Tía Isa le entrega el sobre. No es suficiente, dice el hombre, otra vez sacudiendo su cabeza. Pronto tendremos el dinero, afirma tía Isa, mientras esperamos el autobús. Pero sé que nuestra familia vendrá pronto. De modo que yo sé que pronto puede ser un tiempo muy, muy largo. Tía Isa quiere un carro, pero no tenemos dinero suficiente, le cuento al señor Leo mientras barre su tienda de frutas. Luego él se detiene para rascar su cabeza y se le ocurre una idea. Ayúdame a apilar estas naranjas, niña, y te pagaré. Tía Isa quiere un carro, le cuento a la vieja María. Ella es la dueña de varios gatos que espían por la ventana, pero le duele tanto la espalda que no los puede alimentar. Me mira sobre la montura de sus gafas y me entrega una llave adicional. Ven a visitarme, niña, después de las clases, a darle lechita a los gaticos. Le pagaré. Tía Isa quiere un carro, le explico a señora Amy, que no habla ni una palabra de español, pero quiere invitar al señor Pérez a almorzar unos sándwiches de jamón. ¿Cómo harán para contarse cuentos si no hablan el mismo idioma? Enséñame español, mi vida, y yo le pagaré. Tía Isa quiere un carro, pero ¿por qué lleva tanto tiempo ahorrar el dinero? A veces es difícil esperar que sucedan las cosas buenas, me explica tía. Luego, en mi carta de mami, luego me lee una carta de mami. Mi abuelo se siente un poco mejor. Mami le prepara sopa de cangrejo, papi le toca canciones viejas con su guitarra. ¿Ves? Le está leyendo la carta. Así que espero, y espero, y espero, hasta que un día mi calcetín secreto está lleno de dinero y se convierte en una salchicha gigante y ya no puedo esperar. Le muestro mi sorpresa a la tía. Billetes enrollados se caen sobre mi cama. Tía Isa me da un besito en la frente que deja 2 marcas rosadas. Vamos, tía, vamos. Le llamo y vamos corriendo de puntillitas junto al tío Andrés, que juega las cartas con su compañero de trabajo. Tía Isa me sigue todo el camino hasta la venta de carros. Mira, para allá van corriendo. Tía Isa quiere un carro. Yo lo veo enseguida, junto a la cerca oxidada, del color verde brillante, tan ancho como el porche de la antigua casa de tía. Ya puedo sentir los caracoles de mar entre los dedos de mis pies. ¡Ese mismo!, ella dice entusiasmada. ¡Ese es el carro que quiero! La radio no funciona y tiene mal el aire acondicionado, advierte el vendedor. Pero tía Isa no le presta atención, está concentrada, acariciando el asiento delantero, que tiene lugar suficiente para 3 personas. Asiente cuando le muestro que hay más lugar atrás para el resto de la familia. Tienes razón, mija, me dice. Este carro nos llevará a donde queremos ir. Lo llevamos, le dice al vendedor. Tía Isa enciende el carro. Vamos a hacer el sonido del carro. Muy bien, fantástico. El motor tose una nube de humo denso y suena diciendo: rosa, 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 rosa. Primero lo primero, dice tía Isa, y saca del sobre que ahora es tan delgado como un globo desinflado, lo único que queda dentro. Una foto de nuestra familia. Estoy yo y tía Isa y el tío Andrés, pero también están mis abuelos, mis primos, mami, papi. Ellos siguen en la casa fresco junto al mar, pensando en nosotros. Sostengo la fotografía mientras tía Isa lo coloca con cinta adhesiva en las esquinas. See the tape? This is you. Tía Isa toma el volante y forma el arco. ¡Allá vamos! Off we go. Mi cabello recogido en una cola de caballo flamea atrás de mí como una cuerda sin atar. Recorremos a toda velocidad la avenida de Sanford. La avenida de Sanford, y pasamos frente de mi escuela y otro edificio rojo. Adelantamos del autobús lleno de personas apiñadas. Odio cuando no queda lugar para girar alrededor de las barras. ¡Tía Isa compró un carro!, les grito. ¿Estás manejando? Sí. Tía Isa dirige al lugar señalado. El carro ruge y estacionamos en el lugar justo. Los vecinos salen a ver lo que pasa. ¡Vamos, apúrate!, tía Isa me indica. Después de asegurarme que el súper no está, corro en el jardín con el cartel "no pisar" y silbo hasta que tío Andrés se asoma. ¡Tía Isa compró un carro, tío!, grito con entusiasmo. ¡Ven a verlo! Sorprendido se ríe de su ridícula hermana. ¡Lo lograste!, se exclama y sonríe de oreja a oreja. Lo logramos, aclara tía Isa, y lo mejor es que hay lugar para todos. Tía Isa y yo compramos un carro que nos llevará hasta la playa. Muy bien. Yes. So now we have preguntas. You can ask me anything. You can ask me en inglés o en español. But I would like you to practice your English if you can. It will come in handy, but we can do it either way. Boy, that's a tongue. Cuando uno no está, when you don't read Spanish for a long time and you have to read it a lot, wow. Pregunta, señorita, yes?
How do you paint the pictures?
How do I paint the pictures? Mira. You see this person? Claudio Muñoz. He's a man who he's from Chile, but he lives in England. Claudio es de Chile, pero vive en Inglaterra. I've never met him. When a writer, sometimes the writer also draws the pictures. But in my case, I wrote the words, so I was the author. And he drew the pictures. He was the illustrator. So Claudio Muñoz got my words, and he looked at the story, and he drew the pictures that my words made in his mind. I helped a little. He sent me an email and said, can you send me some pictures of Queens, because I live all the way here in London, and I have not been to Queens. So I sent him some pictures so that he could see what it looked like. So we work together but far away. And that happens a lot. Otras preguntas, other questions.
How the little girl has more money the Tia, how she did that?
Oh, who remembers? Let's see if we can remember from the story. What were some of the ways that she saved money? And it's important to save money, chiquitos, right? It's important to save money, not to just spend it. What's one way that she saved money?
That she was asking some workers that if she gets some money,
Yes.
they help them that she needs to do, so then she saved all the money for them.
Yes. They paid her. Remember, she stacked the oranges, and let's see, she helped somebody learn English, right? Or Español. And then what else did she do? What else did she do?
She helped the old lady
Feeding her cats, la señora con sus gaticos, right? So she earned money. Some of you might be a little young now, but you'll have jobs, and you'll be able to save money, and that's a smart thing, because you could save money for the things that are important. What are the important things that they were saving for in this book? Two really important things. One important thing was, hint, hint, hint.
the car.
Oh, yes, you got to save for a car. But they were also saving for another important thing. They had two piles of money.
A key,
Clothes,
the popsicles,
popsicles. They probably did use money for popsicles. Where did the other pile of money go, the bigger pile of money?
to the family.
Yes. And that happens still a lot. We have families who live in other countries, and we want to help them. So sometimes we send money or presents to help them have enough for the things that they need. And that was true when I was young. And today, when I'm in schools and I'm working with students, I meet lots of students who have family in other countries, and their families send money back so that their families can have healthy food or clothes for the weather, or just so that the family knows we are thinking of you and we love you and we remember you. Do any of you have families who live far away in another country? Ah, yeah, so you know. And you miss them, right? Right. So you don't have to forget your family because they live far away. You can remember them other ways. Okay, otras preguntas. Other question. Yes, ma'am. You have to shout because I'm getting old and my ears are falling off. Tell me again.
I said, why did she leave a message?
Why does she?
Didn't listen.
I need help hearing.
I said, why did your aunt give the car and your grandma said she didn't?
Oh, why didn't my grandmother want her to have the car? Oh, in the real story. Because my grandmother was old-fashioned, and there were two problems. First, she was also afraid of everything, and in her mind, what was a woman doing driving a car in this big country? That was crazy. She didn't want that, which is silly, right? Now, today, every woman we know, right, can drive a car or do anything, but my grandmother was very old-fashioned. But also, she was afraid that Isa would be so nervous that she would crash, which was really not that far off. But you know, she was afraid.
Is that you, the little girl?
No, but you know who it is? Remember I told you that I did an email with Claudio? Okay, so when he wrote to me to ask me about the pictures from Queens, the night before, the strangest thing happened. I dreamed, as I do often when I'm writing, I dream of the book that I'm writing. The people feel very real to me. So they're there, they're right there in my imagination. And I dreamed that I was in Paris, France, where I have never been in my whole life. I was in Paris, France, and I was talking to Claudio, who I had never met in my whole life. And there was a little girl running around the table. So when he asked me for the pictures of Queens, I wrote back to him, I said, here are the pictures that I have. But I have to tell you something. I hope you don't think I'm a crazy woman. But I had a dream that I was talking to you in Paris, France, and there was a little girl running around the table. Isn't that fun? Send. And as soon as I pressed send, I said, ¿Qué estaba pensando yo? He's going to think I'm a crazy person. He's going to say, oh, this one, right? But you know what? He sent me an email 2 minutes later, and it said this: what did she look like? I said, well, she had black hair, and she had it in a ponytail, and I described the girl. And he sends me a picture of his granddaughter, who looked almost exactly like the girl that I dreamed. So he used her as the model for the little girl. And you know what's funny? You know how I told you that Tía Isa is old now and she's in a wheelchair and white hair and things like that? Okay, so Isa didn't know. Isa got very sick right before this book came out. She had a stroke, which is like a type of heart attack and things like that. And we were very worried that Tía Isa was going to die, that I would not have Tía Isa with me. But what ended up happening is that Tía Isa got better. And so she didn't know anything about the book at all. And when she got better, it was at the time, it was a year later, and the version in Spanish came out. And I went to visit my mother and my aunt who lived in Florida. And I brought the book, and I gave it to my mother and my aunt, and they got in bed together, and they read the book together, and Tía Isa cried like a baby. She was so excited. And I was so happy because my aunt, my whole family is just ordinary people. There's nothing superhuman about anybody in my family. We're just ordinary people. My family is exactly like your family, same thing. So it was exciting to be able to show her that everybody's story matters. Everybody could have a good story. Isa's story was wonderful. So now, here's what happens. Now she reads the book, or people meet her and they go, oh, you're the Tía Isa, you're the real Tía Isa. And now she's very bossy. She's like, why did he make my hair like that? And I didn't have a dress like that. He should have made my... And I'm like, look, Tia, be happy you have a book. But now she's very bossy about it, but she's very proud. When people meet her, she'll say, I'm the Tía Isa. Soy la Tía Isa. Other questions from my friends? ¿Algo más? Yes. Oh, Tía Isa's car, that eventually, it was a bad car then, so eventually the car died. She bought other cars and so on. And you know what's interesting? When she got sick, she used to drive a little Kia Cephia, a little modern car. And she gave it to my son, who was getting ready for college. She said to him, I'm going to give you the car so you can drive to school. So she's always had something, her car thing is really big in my family. Cuéntame. Say it again. ¿Cuándo qué?
Hizo el libro. Hizo el libro.
Hmm?
When did you take the book? When did you take the book?
When did this come out?
No, when did you do the book? Yeah. When did he do the book?
When did he do the book? Claudio. Okay. When did he draw it? That's what you want to know? Or no?
She already knows actually.
Okay.
She wants to see how when did he draw it.
¿Cuándo él dibujó los para el libro? Ah, ok, ya entiendo, perdóname. Bueno, empieza, uno escribe el manuscrito, las palabras. You start with a manuscript and you send it to an editor. Se lo mando a mi editora. Ella lo revisa, she checks it, and she gives me ideas. Después, after that, she goes to a person called an art director, el que dirige arte. And that art director looks at the words and says, I think this artist, yo creo que este artista puede pintar la portada bien, and they pick the person. So I wrote it, lo escribí y se lo mandé, and he took like a year, un año, demoró. Because he has to draw all of it. He has to draw the front cover. He has to decide what the letters look like. He has to decide on these little things that he's going to put here. And he decided that this should be a blue outline here. How many of you like to draw pictures and paint? Right. This could be a job that you do. It's called illustration. It's called being an illustrator. So if you love stories, you can write them, puedes escribir el cuento, pero también you can draw the pictures. And in a way, you're telling the story with pictures, which is wonderful.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.